Hi everybody, how are you? It's Mike Andrew, once again providing a short video with practical insights as it applies to business and leadership. I want to tell a story, and this story is a true story where I would say I probably learned the greatest leadership lessons ever, and it came from outside the corporate context. I had a role as a president of the board of directors for this community, homeowners, pretty exclusive community, 200 homes, gated community, private, on the water, houses on the water. So people, homeowners had a real stake in the game, in their assets, in their home. And in that role, I learned some lessons around collaboration, treating people with dignity, the spirit of goodwill, trusting and empowering your team to help you make efficient decisions, the significance of budgeting, focusing and managing a budget, where you don't have to keep increasing the budget or increasing taxes or increasing fees every year. And looking out for the greater good, not just for you personally or your team, but aligning with the greater good of the organization. And finally, at the end, I'm going to talk about another lesson, which is a disturbing lesson. It was a compliment, but a disturbing compliment. I'll talk about that at the end. So let me talk about the first three: collaborating, treating people with dignity, and spirit of goodwill. This community was adjoined to another community. You had to drive through that other community, which was more established and older, to get to ours. So therefore, we had to use their roads. So we had access to their roads, which they had to maintain. So the right thing to do is to contribute money every year since we're using their roads, the wear and tear of the roads. But it turned out that the calculation, the algorithm, which was established when the community was new, was no longer valid, because now with 200 homes, we were paying an extraordinary amount of money. And I would look at the budget and say, why are we paying this much money? And they would look at their budget and say, hey, we're getting this from our community, from Long Bay, it was called. So when I became president, when I was new to the community, what I didn't realize is both communities hated each other. They didn't get along. And I went to the board of the other community, nice and happy, introducing myself. And boy, did I get treated terribly. They just came down hard on me. They didn't know me. And I'm in there in a spirit of collaboration, goodwill. How can we work together to do good things? They came down on me pretty tough. Lack of collaboration, desire to collaborate, not treating me respectfully, nicely, and not in the spirit of goodwill. Well, we had to work with this issue, the budget issue, because we're paying them now a lot of money based on an old algorithm. 3 times I tried to set up the meeting to work with them, to collaborate, and 3 times they canceled the meeting. So one of our guys worked in this business. He was brilliant. He put together this detailed logic algorithm, which stated, long story short, you couldn't argue against because it's fact. And we ended up, legally, we didn't have to pay them a penny, but out of goodwill, the right thing to do, because we're using the roads, you should pay them. But we ended up going back to them saying, here's what we're going to pay you from now on, which was about 25% of what we were normally paying. They were stunned, they were shocked, but they had no recourse because it was based on fact, based on logic. And legally, we didn't have to pay, but it is the right thing to do. But so let me talk more about goodwill, because they didn't treat me with goodwill. Sometime after that, there was a heavy storm, and that road, part of that road caved in, collapsed. The damage was pretty extensive. So they came to me and said, can you help? Can your community help? I said, of course we will. It's the right thing to do. And I met with the board. We agreed on a number. I went back to them and said, here's what we're going to contribute. They couldn't believe what we came back with. From then on, that spirit of goodwill completely changed the relationship between the two communities. Empowering, trust, and making decisions. The board members were brilliant on this board, brilliant people. I used to joke that my job was simply to say, that's a great idea, let's do it. That's a great idea, let's do it. That's all my job was as the president of the board. Brilliant people. And there's a lot to learn there in management, in your role in a company. Empower, trust your people, those who are doing the job. Let them come up with the solutions and recommendations. And maybe not in all cases, but in many cases say, that's a great idea, let's do it. Budgeting, managing the budget. Every city and town, every government, every year, they look at increasing taxes as if they're in the business to make money. We put together a plan, thanks to the brilliance of our board members, nothing to do with me. I was just like, this looks great, let's do it. We put together a budget from the beginning. You can call it zero-based budgeting, where we put together a 3-year plan to upgrade the community with 121 landscaping projects, to build a capital reserve fund, do all these things, while lowering the dues 3 years in a row. We pay dues because we're a private community. Where do you ever hear of lowering the dues 3 years in a row with all these upgrades? That's the brilliance of relying on brilliant people on the board, and my job was simply to say, great, let's do it. Looking out for the greater good. I had to make tough decisions. Sometimes I had to make decisions that disrupted a family here or a family there, and difficult conversations, but sometimes I had to do that for the greater good of the community, and generally people understood that. So looking out for the greater good of the company, of your organization, not selfishly you and your team, but hopefully things can align that you're also looking out for the greater good. Finally, the disturbing compliment that I think is a lesson here. The feedback that I got from the residents was this. They appreciated the fact that as president of the board that I was approachable. And that used to disturb me, like, how can you not, this is a volunteer job, by the way, how can you not be approachable? What's the opposite of that, not be approachable? We're all neighbors, friends and neighbors. The same thing at work. Managers, we should all be approachable, whatever level of management we're in. Be approachable and rely on the good talent that we have and listen to the ideas people may come up with. So those are my lessons from a personal experience outside the corporate arena. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.